That was a track from Rise of the New Earth, a newly released, doesn't even begin to describe the freshness of that album. Today is its launch date, and I am speaking with its creator,
Mhm.
Cosmic T.
Mm.
Welcome back.
Thanks, Randy.
All right, so now let's start talking about the album.
Sure.
If I've got my chronology straight, after this long hiatus of the music just is not flowing in 2019, something happened that changed that a bit for you, right?
Yeah, yeah. So there was a call. A call happened, and I literally a call. I think I got called up from this beautiful woman who was putting together a play for a student led play called From the Heart. Andrea Mann is her name, and she called me up and she asked if I'd be interested in supporting this play and helping the kids create this play based on indigenous reconciliation and truth telling, and this just weaving this really beautiful story in the form of drama. And so she was asking if I could help either create a song with them, so with the students, or provide a song that they could use in the play. And I ended up actually doing both. So I created a song called Rainbow Warriors, which is actually on the album, which was my contribution to that conversation around reconciliation and what that might look like and feel like in our lives. And then I also supported a couple of the students in creating their own song, which was also used in the play. And it just had this very, this very beautiful sense of, well, basically that's what just got me back into the booth. You know, it was through the youth and through this call to support the youth who have always been my biggest fans to actually start making the music again. And that kind of opened up that faucet again. Once Rainbow Warriors was out in the world, then I could feel that new things were percolating within me that wanted to come through.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And that leads us to the new album. And in looking at the titles of many of the tracks and listening to the tunes themselves, of course, there are some things that shine through unmistakably. And one of them is a name. I know that you've been deeply moved and influenced by the, correct me if I'm mispronouncing this, but the Pachacuti Mesa tradition.
Hmm.
And if I have this straight, Pachacuti actually means world reversal. Is that right?
In the Quechua language, that's right. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
Quechua is the ancient language of the Inca peoples. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Down from the Andes of
Right.
Peru there. Yeah.
Right. So world reversal, that sounds vaguely ominous. Explain that.
Yeah, could be taken that way. I mean, if you look at our world right now, it's kind of like, oh my goodness, we're in one major Pachacuti, right? There's a big upheaval happening. It's almost like the compost is getting churned, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Great way
stuff
to
that
put
comes
it.
out of that. And sometimes it could be a little smelly and a little funky, but also like very necessary to create those nutrients for something new to grow. That's the
I
way
believe
that
that's actually called literally shit disturbing, right?
there you go. So yeah, there's this has been prophesized by so many cultures all around the world, that there's going to be this great time of upheaval and transformation and transition, this great Pachacuti. And so yeah, this tradition that I've been studying under for the last 6 years or so, this beautiful wisdom tradition, from the Andes of Peru, rooted in deep reverence for the earth and all life, has greatly informed the songs on this album as well, has greatly helped me attune to those seen and unseen realms and really bring through some of that medicine of the natural world and of the stars and, of the earth and of the animals and the elements. And I've really done my best to be a channel for those forces to bless this album and just speak into this album. So yeah, it's been a huge informer for me for this process, and that's actually been a big part of that personal journey of transformation I was talking to you about. Incidentally, I started exactly that apprenticeship, right around the time when the faucet turned off. So I'm actually making that connection right now. I'm like, oh yeah, of course. I had to go through my own Pachacutis, quite a few of them actually, before the songs were ready to come out of the oven, so to speak.
I hear you. So
Yeah.
speaking of hearing, in listening to tracks on the new album, Cosmic, I was really struck by the deep spirituality and so much of the lyric in or the lyrics in these songs, and the juxtaposition of that against the form hip hop,
Mm,
which of course is coming from a distinctly urban place originally,
hmm.
right? Is there a tension there for you between that sort of spiritual Pachacutian bass that's really at the heart and soul of this album and the form, or do you see hip hop being a perfect delivery mechanism for these messages? And each song is clearly a message.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hip hop is such a beautiful medium for storytelling as well. And I feel like a lot of what I'm doing is telling a story, my own story, the greater story of the human collective, the story of where we've been and where we're going. And so I actually feel like it's been a really beautiful marriage. And of course, I've actually had a hard time like dialing down what do I actually call this music? Because it isn't traditional 90s hip hop. And it has a lot of different kind of earthy electronic elements to it. So I feel like it's one of my friends actually calls it so she calls it hip hope, which I
I
think is
love
really
that. That's
sweet.
perfect.
Yeah.
She nailed it.
She
Yeah.
nailed it. Yeah. And I'm also fond of calling it like heart-centered hip hop because there's a lot of hip hop out there, and a lot of us, it's almost traumatic. I know myself when I grew up listening to hip hop, a lot of it I love, but a lot of the messages weren't exactly so positive or empowering. A lot of
Right.
toxic messaging in a hip hop, a lot of ego in that world. And so part of my contribution or what I want to bring through is provide opportunities for the youth and, people of all ages to connect with messages and with hip hop in a way that's actually healing and empowering and connective rather than all that other stuff. And I'll actually share one tiny, tiny snippet of a story. I actually had this really beautiful friend of mine. She was listening to my music and she sent me this message and told me that my music actually helped her heal her relationship with hip hop because she also grew up, in the kind of 80s, 90s culture and, took in a lot of that information without even realizing what we're taking in. And
Yeah.
she realized that it was actually safe to like relax into this new form of hip hop that I was bringing through because the messages and the energy was just one that she could really open to and receive. So I was
Yeah.
really honored to hear that and really grateful for that, and that my intention, feels like it's really shining through in that way. Yeah.
That's really fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
I love so many of the titles of the tracks on this new album, Cosmic Pachamama, Mountain I Am, Deep Within,
Hmm.
Return of the Bird Tribes. That's my
That's a good one.
personal favorite. Rainbow Warriors, which you mentioned before, Starlight.
Yeah.
It's really a great piece of work. And before we sign off, speaking of that, today the album is dropping, and let's make sure our listeners know exactly how to tune into these tracks. Where
Sure.
do they turn?
Yeah, thank you, Randy. So if you want to tune into the tracks, you can check out my Bandcamp page. So you could just Google search Bandcamp Cosmic T. So that's Cosmic with a K. T is a letter T, not the tea you drink, just the letter T. You can also check it out on Spotify, again, just under Cosmic T. iTunes, it's also on iTunes. And where else is it? It's on a whole bunch of places, but those are some of the main ones that a lot of people are looking for. Of course, also YouTube. I should have the songs up on YouTube at that point as well. And there's also a nice music video if you want to check out for Pachamama on YouTube, which I had a lot of fun putting together too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, listen, obviously, we could keep talking for a much longer time, but alas, Kootenai Co op Radio only allows me a half an hour. So, Cosmic, it's been a slice. Congratulations on the new album.
Thanks,
I know it's
Randy.
going to be very successful,
Hmm.
and I think it's going to change some lives, which is pretty extraordinary, right?
Yeah, yeah. One can only hope. And yeah, thanks again for the opportunity to be here and to share a little bit about my journey with you and your listeners. I really appreciate it, Randy.